ChatGerry Keynote speech at Cardio Hub Medical Conference on November 17, 2025. Number 1424. Gerald C. Eclaire MD Foundation. Category Vascular Calcifications. Slide 1. Pathophysiology of vessel calcification. 1. Long-term diabetes damages arteries through high glucose, inflammation, and glycation. 2. Calcium gradually deposits inside the vessel wall, making arteries stiff and fragile. 3. Hypertension does not start calcification, but it accelerates the damage. 4. Old metabolic injury, obesity, and diabetes creates rigid vessels that cannot fully recover. 5. A single blood pressure spike, acute hypertension, can rupture weak vessels and trigger a stroke. Key message: diabetes starts the damage, hypertension triggers the event. Slide 2. VMT energy model of calcification. 1. 4 daily biomarkers drive vascular stress, FPG, VF%, pp, vessel stiffness, MAP, blood supply of oxygen and nutrients to various organs, including heart, brain, kidneys, etc. 2. VMT converts these 4 inputs into calcification energy to measure long-term irreversible damage. 3. My metabolic factors, obesity and diabetes, for example, FPG-VF, contributed about 60% of total damage. 4. My hemodynamic factors, blood pressures, for example, PP-MAP, contributed about 40%. 5. VMT energy curve shows early rapid damage, from 2010 to 2012, and later stabilization after 2018. Key message: VMT proves quantitatively that metabolic stress is the dominant force, 60%, and hemodynamic stress is the secondary contributor, 40. Slide 3. TDA geometry of calcification. 1. TDA shows how the 4D health shape expanded, bad, or contracted, good, over time. 2. In from 2010 to 2012, the shape was large and unstable, maximum risk. 3. From 2013 to 2018, the shape contracted sharply, recovery phase. 4. After 2018, the system stabilized into a compact cluster, stable but irreversible. 5. The geometric ratio also shows about 60% metabolic and 40% hemodynamic influence. Key message: geometry confirms the same 60-40 pattern of viscoplastic energy magnitude through topological contraction. Slide 4. 3 method comparison. Pathophysiology, VMT, TDA, similarity across all 3 studies. 1. All methods agree diabetes and obesity are the main cause of calcification. 2. Hypertension adds mechanical pressure but is not the root driver. 3. Old calcification cannot be completely reversed, only stabilized. 4. My stroke became inevitable after decades of metabolic injury, mainly my diabetes, non-controlled diabetes during from 1990 to 2009. Differences across all 3 studies. 1. Pathophysiology explains why the damage forms, pathophysiology, or biology. 2. VMT measures how much irreversible damage accumulates, physics, and engineering viscoplastic energy. 3. TDA shows how the system evolves in shape and stability over time. Mathematics and geometry topology. Final takeaway: 3 independent scientific methods point to the same truth. Control glucose early, reduce visceral fat, keep blood pressure stable. Start now. Waiting too long makes the damage permanent. Organs can be partially recovered, but certain degrees of damages are irreversible. Blood vessel calcifications. Spoken script for my keynote speech at Cardio Hub Medical Conference on November 17, 2025. Slide 1. Pathophysiology: how calcification begins. Thank you. Let me start with the biomedical side. This picture shows what happens inside our arteries over many years. In my case, I had more than 20 years of uncontrolled diabetes and obesity before 2010. During those years, high glucose, inflammation, and glycation slowly damaged the inside wall of the vessels. Calcium began to deposit, and the vessels became stiff and fragile. This is exactly what my brain CT films, bright white areas, showed after my stroke on June 21, 2025. Hypertension did not start the problem, but one blood pressure spike at 175 mm of mercury on the day of my stroke acted as the trigger that ruptured an already damaged vessel. So the biological message is simple: diabetes starts the damage, hypertension finishes the job. Slide 2. VMT energy analysis: how much damage accumulated. Next is my VMT energy model, which comes from physics and engineering. I used 4 daily biomarkers: FPG, diabetes, visceral fat, obesity, pulse pressure, and MAP, hypertension. The VMT model measures how much total, irreversible stress energy the vessels absorb over time. My VMT analysis results show a very clear pattern: metabolic stress from glucose and visceral fat, contributed about 60% of the total damage. Hemodynamic stress from blood pressure contributed about 40%. This matches what we see clinically. The large damage was already formed during 1999 through 2009, even under medications before 2010. My lifestyle changes after 2010 could only stabilize the condition, not totally erase the old calcification. So the message from VMT is, metabolism is the dominant force, pressure is the secondary amplifier. Slide 3. TDA geometry, how the system evolved in shape. Now let me show the same dataset, through the lens of mathematics and geometry using TDA. The early years, from 2010 to 2012, created a very large, unstable geometric shape. This means my metabolic and blood pressure conditions were pulling in different directions. From 2013 to 2018, the geometry contracted sharply. That represents certain degree of recovery and stabilization from my lifestyle change. After 2018, the shape became very small and almost spherical, meaning the system reached a stable but permanent condition. It could not return to a youthful shape, because the old structural damage could not be totally undone. My VMT study showed a 6040 split between metabolic and hemodynamic stress. The TDA results point to the same conclusion, although in a different way. TDA does not calculate percentages, but the PCA, geometric patterns clearly show that metabolic factors dominate the system. The overall shape contraction in TDA aligns well with the 6040 pattern revealed by VMT. Please see notes at the end of this article. So the geometric analysis message is, the system improves, but it cannot reverse earlier damage. The shape tells the same story as the energy analysis. Slide 4. 3 method comparison, 1 story, 3 languages. Finally, let me summarize all 3 methods. Pathophysiology tells us why calcification happens. VMT shows how much damage accumulates. TDA shows how the system evolves and stabilizes over time. 3 different scientific methods, biomedicine, physics, engineering, and mathematics, geometry, all lead to the same answer. In my personal HEAT dataset and in the published literature, metabolic damage, especially glucose and visceral fat, is the primary driver of vessel calcification. Blood pressure is only the accelerator and the final trigger. Calcification becomes mostly irreversible once it reaches saturation. So the final message for everyone is very simple. Control glucose early, reduce visceral fat, keep pulse pressure stable. Do not wait. Old vascular damages are largely irreversible, but new damage can be prevented. Thank you. From Gerald C. Note regarding VVMT versus TDA, the VMT energy ratio of 6040 means that metabolic energy, FPG, plus VF%, is about 1.5 times larger than hemodynamic energy, PP plus MAP. The TDA's PC1-PC2 ratio, calculated from the primary eigenvalue, 96.84, divided by the secondary eigenvalue, 2.08, equals is 46.6. This means the primary metabolic variance dominates the geometric space, and evolves about 46 times more strongly than the secondary hemodynamic variance. These numerical values differ because the 2 methods measure different properties. VMT measures physics-based stress and strain energy. TDA measures geometric shape and statistical variance. The key point, both models, even though they use different scientific languages, independently demonstrate the same conclusion. Metabolic stress is the dominant source of vessel calcification. Hemodynamic stress is secondary. This convergence is the true scientific meaning behind both results. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer and healthier lives. This content is for educational reference only, and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights belong to the author. Gerald C.